Sorry, I was just catching up on some reading. This is very good if you ever get the chance to read it. In fact, I think there was also an anime adaptation of it back in the 70s, 80s. I guess it's been around a long time. Enough of that. So let me think. It's been another month on HRT, and well, I know it's a bit of a cliche that I start off a lot of these videos by saying, yeah, I don't really have a lot to talk about, and then I'll go on like a 15-minute dissertation on something. Well, there are a few things I can think of. So the first one to start out with, it was a question that a good friend of mine had, basically saying, is there like a honeymoon period when it comes to transitioning to being on HRT? And you know what? I can very much agree. The answer is yes. During that first year or so of transitioning, my feet never touched the ground. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw the face of an angel, something that just didn't feel real. It's like, wow, I'm doing it. I'm a woman. Which, as you could probably hear in my voice, it's something that still brings me joy, but instead of looking in the mirror every day going, oh man, this is fantastic, I think I'm gonna cry, it's kind of gotten to a point of like, they're not good looking. So it's good, but it's just not as exciting anymore. In fact, the example I gave to the friend when explaining this answer is, it'd be like the equivalent of if a rich relative died and you had millions of dollars. Now, for the first little while, it's going to be very exciting. It's like, wow, you don't have to worry about debt. You can go out to eat every so often. You can just enjoy some of the more finer things in life. But then after a while, it's just like, yep, big Italian sports car. There's the mansion. Hey Jeeves, how you doing? Are we gonna have some more foie gras tonight? Just becomes every day. Becomes less special. It's something that still brings joy, but not as much joy. And this is one of the things I'm curious about as well. If there are other people that have been transitioning for a while, what is your experience with this? As I feel like this is kind of a section that isn't really explored so much. But that is another thing as well I've noticed is, given my age and how long I've been on HRT for, it seems like I'm what's known as a rare trans elder. And this is always the thing I found funny, is how a lot of people will be so bent out of shape and being reminded that they're old. It's one of those things where, in terms of the internet, yeah, I know I'm old. But I like that. When you're older, people give you respect. Up until about 7 years ago, everybody thought I was 16, so they would always talk down to me. It's like, ooh, remember when we had to watch things on the antenna? Oh, this was before you were born. Remember an era before cell phones? We had a pay phone. We had radio. Yes, I know all of these things. I am old enough to drink. I am old enough to go to the casino. I am older than you think. And well, I think now I've at least got the ability to pass as an adult at this point. In fact, it's one of those things that's kind of nice, is occasionally I'll bump into people and just be like, yeah, I'm in my 30s. And they're just like, really? You don't look like it. Well, it's one of the things people tell me is that if you don't have a beard, that takes off 10 years at least. And well, there is kind of a more rejuvenating factor in basically going through puberty again, so that might be part of it. I'm not really sure if it's the best segue, but feel like I just kind of added an extra A into that word, but whatever. I'm not going to edit that part out. It was a bit of a thing that was brought into perspective with me not too long ago. Is I remember when I was younger, or really just the time when I was, shall we say, more masculine presenting, I remember I was very much a bit of a klutz. I would drop things. I would trip on very thick air and do all this other crazy stuff. And yeah, I feel like everybody has one of those moments where, like, they'll be eating something and then all of a sudden there's, like, a weird electrical impulse and then, like, their hand will just drop the fork or the knife, or they're, like, holding a plate up and then it's like, whoa, whoa. I think that's pretty common. But in terms of, like, tripping, as well as, like, other clumsy things, it's something that's kind of gone by the wayside in terms of transitioning. And, well, I'm not sure if this is the case, but it does very much feel as if the mind and the body are finally becoming one. It's almost like this really bad movie called Pluto Nash, where it was like a whole bunch of little people trying to control to them, a gigantic robot, but on the outside it just looked like a regular human. It was the idea that it feels like now my body has been properly calibrated. Now I've got counterweights in the right place. I think that's really... I suppose I could go into a tirade, but it kind of involves politics, and I don't really want to get into that. Maybe I'll just kind of say this as like, so it's Pride Month now, and I guess I'm just kind of reminded of this one snippet from the book I'm reading, Les Miserables. So there's this character named Marius, found out that his father served under Napoleon. And it was at a time when King Louis so it was the 14th, I believe, that was executed. The 15th was saved. So I think it was the 16th was on the throne at this point. And so Napoleon was, like, very much disregarded as, like, a radical, especially after his horrible defeat at Waterloo. But anyway, the main reason I bring this up is Marius discovered his father was part of that army, and then all of a sudden he just became a hardcore Bonapartist. And the way Victor Hugo describes it is it's almost like a religion. And when you discover a religion for the first time, you're, like, very passionate about it. You want to know everything. You are 100% rock solid steady in all your beliefs. Which I guess in some ways could be applied to the first point I brought up. But it also very much goes to how I felt about Pride Month. I'm just like, yeah, this is my time. It's almost kind of like another birthday. Well, actually, really, October 1st would be my other birthday. But the main point I'm trying to get across is it just doesn't really feel that special. And as I've been seeing what the community has kind of devolved into, it's not really something I want to be associated with anymore. And I get the feeling that I brought this up maybe 2-3 Pride months ago, where I went to my first Pride event, and all the while I just had this uneasy feeling that this is not the place for me. I don't belong here. It very much felt like something that was geared for people that were like 5 to maybe 8 years younger than I was, and it seemed like the main attraction at that point was the drag show that was going on. And well, if you didn't see that video, I never really quite got on with the idea of drag. I've heard so many people talk about RuPaul's drag show that they love it. But personally, when it comes to RuPaul, I prefer him in the role of Professor X from Amphibia. Professor X Mr. X, Professor X. He's not one of the X-Men. I thought that would be interesting. RuPaul as the head of the X-Men. That's probably also getting into politics now, isn't it? But, where was I going? Oh yes, so drag. The main issue I have with it is it's not something that I want to be associated with. I just kind of fear that people will not take me seriously. It's the idea. It's just like, oh, you just want to be a drag queen, but you don't want to admit it. Oh, you want to look pretty, but still be a guy at the end of the day. No. I want to be a woman at the end of the day. But if I want to choose to dress in a more masculine fashion, that is my choice. But I want the base, the person wearing the clothes, to be a woman. I don't want to be seen as a clown for amusement, to be laughed upon. As I find that's kind of the main thing about drag, is you take female beauty standards and you play it up to the nth degree. So, like, big hair, makeup, heels. So, of course, the hair is like up here. The makeup is like very in your face. And the heels make you like twice as tall. And like I say, it's just not really something I want to be associated with. So, before concluding this episode, there is one last thing I wanted to do. So, I get the feeling I mentioned last time, it was one of the first times that I ever really saw, like, the idea of a female cosplay, and I'm just like, hey, I think I could do it. And you know, in putting on this shirt, let me just kind of stretch it out a little bit, move the hair back, I think I could pull this off. In fact, give me a second. I think it is worth a shot at least. I think I got a little too long a hair to be able to do this justice, and, well, I don't really know how to really style it that much outside of like a few little hair ties and a hair clip and whatnot. But, I don't know. What do you think? Did I pull it off? So, that's really about all I've got for this session. If there's anything else you'd like to talk about that is not related to politics, feel free to leave a comment down below. And until next time, keep having fun.